Disclaimer. Some of our content varies per video and may not be suitable for younger audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Also, in some content, we are critical of the video games, books, music, videos, and other creators on the platform. While we are a group-owned channel, our opinions expressed are solely on our own and may not always reflect the opinions of those associated with this channel. We at Novakast do not condone any and all harassment, i.g. cyberbullying, doxing, swatting, towards any of the people that we may be critical towards. How's it going, everybody? Rob here, back with another video, and we are doing another reaction. This time, however, focusing on another video from K9AVERSION. For those who know, or for those who have seen my channel long enough, you guys know that K9AVERSION is a content creator that hates dogs. And in terms of her reactions or commentary in terms of dogs or animals, or domesticated animals, I should say, she displays a sort of cult-like behavior to try to, in terms of her videos, make it seem like all dogs are evil, all cats are evil, anybody who owns a cat or dog is evil, and to an extent should treat them lesser than human. And a lot of her followers have eaten her content up. So we're going to look at a video from her called Dog Worshippers Want Humans to Die from Rabies. Now, ironically, her go-to, especially when to try to dehumanize people who, own, domesticated animals like dogs, she claims that they're dog worshippers. So, anyway, let's, right off the bat, anyways, let's go ahead and look at this. All right, rabies kill. And I may be pausing a lot. It's almost like a minute long. Rabies kills 6,000 or 60,000 people a year, mainly in Asia and Africa. Although it is kind of a minor thing, she is somewhat correct. Rabies is estimated to kill around 59,000 people each year. I know it's not much, but numbers matter, especially with individuals like K9AVERSION. But the actual number is likely higher due to underreporting. So, there might be correction there. So, key facts about rabies. Rabies is a viral disease that affects both humans and animals. It's present on every continent except Antarctica. 95% of rabies cases occur in Asia and Africa. In Africa, rabies is the second leading cause of death after Asia. I would have to assume due to lack of accessibility to vaccination. In the US, rabies is uncommon, with an average of 2.5 deaths per year between 2000 and 2021. Rabies is spread to humans through contact with saliva of an infected animal, usually through a bite. Rabies is almost 100% fatal after symptoms appear. There are effective vaccines and I keep screwing up this word. Immunigables. Hold on. How would you say that? I'm sorry. It's always fun when you have like a really long medical term. Okay, hold on. Definition. I'm not even... Okay, here we go.
Immunoglobulin.
Frickin' A.
Immunoglobulin.
Yeah, I'm going to hold that one right there, just in case I have to use it again. But looking at that real quick. So, immunoglobulin, okay. I know I said it wrong, I'm sorry. Also known as antibodies, are proteins produced by the immune system that play a crucial role in defending the body against infections and other threats. Immunoglobulin, okay, I think I said it right that time, are glycoproteins that are synthesized and secreted by plasma cells, a type of white blood cell. They are specifically designed to recognize and bind to foreign substances called antibodies, such as bacteria, viruses, and toxins. Their functions is to neutralize antigens, opsonizing antigens, and activating components. All right, the more you know. But overall, so I will say, like, in terms of, her number there's a good chance that may be the case where it's 60,000. But as far as we know, according to, what I just read, and at least in a lot of other cases, it's, at the time, at least what's reported, I'm going to say what's reported, 59,000. So, anyway, let's go ahead and continue this video. Okay, 40% of those who die from rabies are children under 15 years of age. I end up looking this one up, and sure enough, yeah, that is actually... I will give her credit. That's actually true. About 40% of rabies deaths each year are children under the age of 15. Rabies... Okay, so, why are children affected? Children are at high risk because they are more likely to be bitten by a rabid animal. Children are disproportionately affected by rabies in rural areas where access to healthcare is limited. So normally, in any situation where a healthcare is limited, or let's say they're dealing with an animal that's unvaccinated, is a cause for rabies. All right, how's it spread? Rabies is caused through the saliva of infected animals, usually through bites or scratches. In the United States, rabies is found in raccoons, skunks, foxes, and bats. So, we're going to go further into that information later for how it's prevented. But, and it's... I will say, with looking at this, I mean, as far as kids, not like, where do I even begin with this? Because to an extent, yes, rabies. I will say, like, rabies is probably one of the most deadly diseases. But in terms of, like, children getting bitten, normally it's either, the child, especially when parental guidance is not available, or to an extent, are not, I hate to say it, paying attention to their kid. At times you have kids that will, they see an animal, they want to touch the animal. Overall, what happens to kids, especially when they get bitten, is not okay. It's truly not. Especially when, again, dealing with animals that are suffering from rabies. So, anyway, let's go ahead and continue. Dogs are the main source of human rabies. Now, I was a little bit iffy on this one, but after looking it up, Um, the primary source of human rabies is infected dogs, particularly in regions where stray dog populations are high, as they are responsible for the majority of human rabies cases globally. So I would have to say that, like, just kind of tack this on to one of the earlier statements where it's more prominent in areas like Asia and Africa, where, again, healthcare is limited and the ability to vaccinate animals is also limited. Areas like the U.S. and Canada more likely are going to have a better protection for, which, if I recall, with a lot, especially if I would have to guess with Canada and their healthcare, every single animal is, or at least any animal that's brought into the vet is usually vaccinated. But overall, areas like U.S., England or Britain, Canada, etc., that have high population, better healthcare, they're going to have better access to some of the protections of, rabid animals like dogs. So at this point, it's only not to downplay it, but it seems like it's mostly the main, like the more in the areas that have like more of an instability in infrastructure and healthcare, which again is very, very unfortunate. Okay. All right, contributing up to 99% of all rabies transmissions to humans. I'll give her credit to some extent. Some of the things that she has posted in this have been like, I want to say a lot of times with her videos, it's been hearsay. But looking at some of the things that she's posted with rabies, so I end up looking that dogs contribute to 99% of the human transmitted rabies. Yes, dog bites and scratches are responsible for 99% of human rabies cases. Rabies is a viral disease that's always fatal once it infects the central nervous system. So, looking at it, how to prevent rabies: vaccinate your pets against rabies, keep pets under supervision, avoid handling wild animals or strays. If bitten by an animal, wash the wound with soap and water for 10 to 15 minutes. Contact a healthcare provider to determine if post-exposure prophylaxis is required. Also, maybe if we talk about the control efforts, the World Health Organization and the World Organizations of Animal Health and other organizations have a plan to end human deaths from dog-transmitted rabies by 2030. Large-scale control programs have eliminated dog rabies in Europe, United States, and Canada. So, like I said before, areas like Europe, United States, and Canada that have a greater infrastructure, better healthcare, and better access to vaccines, their numbers are going to be slightly smaller compared to areas that have less access to healthcare. So, and then rabies treatment. Treatment for rabies exposure typically requires 4 to 5 doctor visits and is a substantial financial burden for main bite victims. So, overall, yes, dogs bites or scratches can be responsible for 99% of the human rabies cases. However, it does seem that it is mainly in areas where, again, healthcare is either subpar or almost absent. So, and I'm pretty sure that canine aversion does not live in areas like Asia or Africa. All right, let's continue. Over 116 or 160 people a day die of the almost completely preventable disease. So I would have to guess, and I actually did look this up prior to doing this video. Well, at least, okay, so to an extent, to have all these facts, I did have to look at the video to look at each point. But overall, so once again, I gotta give her props. Yes, according to the 2015 study, 160 people die from rabies every day. This preventable disease is most prevalent, not preventable, most prevalent in Africa and Asia. So this goes back to what I'm saying. So I want to assume with some of the things that she's mentioning, even though, like, at the beginning she just stated that it's more prevalent in Africa and Asia, trying to make it seem like everybody, like all dogs are capable of gaining or like being affected by rabies, which is not the case. I mean, as long as they're vaccinated, as long as the dogs are vaccinated, then they are protected. Or at least when the dogs are vaccinated, they're protected by, rabies. And by the way, again, in areas like Europe, Canada, and the US, dogs are, or at least the cases of dogs and rabies is very low in those areas. So, how many people die from rabies each year? World Health Organization estimates, we already read this before, 59,000 people die from rabies each year. About 40% of rabies deaths are in children under 15. More than 95% of human deaths from rabies occur in Africa and Asia. Why is rabies so prevalent in Africa and Asia? Domestic dog vaccination is not widely implemented in these regions. Access to post-exposure treatment is limited. Healthcare in these regions tend to be severely limited. How can we reduce rabies deaths? Doctors and vets can work together to significantly reduce deaths. Global Alliance for Rabies Control, or GARC, has a Partners for Rabies Prevention group that works to reduce the spread of rabies. World Rabies Day is celebrated on September 28 to raise awareness about rabies prevention. I didn't even know that was a thing. That's actually kind of cool. And what is the economic impact of rabies? Rabies has a significant economic impact, causing annual losses of around $8.6 billion US dollars. Dang. That is crazy. All right, continuing the video. Due to poverty and government corruption, rabies vaccination programs are not being effectively implemented in areas like Africa and Asia. Yes. I will say, like, and by the way, again, I'm not trying to downplay what's going on, and some of the video, and by the way, I want to point out too, to really kind of hone in on her, to get her point across. She goes for a lot of the shock value in terms of, like, try to get her point across. And unfortunately, with a lot of these videos, these clips, it's I will say it is really sad what some of these people are going through. But I want to say that what these people are going through and her using it is very, and considering her, like, you know, her stance on dogs, I want to say is very, very manipulative. In fact, I would almost say it's almost spitting on these people. Because dogs, although in a lot of cases are the main source of human, you know, human case rabies, we have to ask ourselves what causes dogs to be infected. I think that's the bigger picture. It'd be easy to prevent these unnecessary deaths by culling stray dogs. I think if anything, in terms of dogs, make sure they're vaccinated. I mean, a lot of organizations like shelters or the SPCA, they, you know, take stray dogs, they make sure they have their vaccines, as well as, you know, spade or neutering the animals. So in areas, I want to say in areas like, again, the Europe, USA, and Canada, they're already making the efforts to try to deal with the situation of rabies. It's areas like Africa and Asia that are still dealing with this at a high rate. But loving dog worshippers prefer humans to die needlessly in this horrific manner. So, this is why I say, this is why what I said earlier, that it's, to an extent, you have this woman just kind of spitting on these people and what they're going through. So, because she had to tack that on. Dog worshippers prefer humans to die needlessly in this horrific manner. No, we don't. We understand, like people who own dogs and a lot of other people, we understand that rabies is such a terrible thing to catch or to have done to you. It's like, and ultimately there are ways to prevent it. That's the thing that that this person doesn't get, is that dogs aren't the ultimate evil, dude. Dogs aren't the only carrier of rabies. They may be the most prominent in areas like Africa and Asia because, again, healthcare is very scarce over there. But overall, dogs aren't the complete equalizer in terms of, you know, rabies. Let's finish up her video. Oh, that's it. So, anyway, I just want to read a couple things. So, main carrier for rabies. Main carriers of rabies are wild animals like raccoons, bats, skunks, and foxes. But many mammals can be infected. In some countries, dogs are the primary carriers. Again, like we mentioned numerous times, like Africa and Asia. Explanations. Wildlife. In North America, 99% of rabies cases occur in wildlife in the United States. Bats are the leading cause of human rabies deaths. So, in areas like the U.S., it's not dogs that are the main cause. It's bats. Bats are the biggest carrier. In fact, if we look it up, I didn't have this one up, but if largest carrier of rabies. I mean, if we do... Yeah, so... United States, bats are the biggest carrier of rabies, followed by raccoons, skunks, and foxes. Alright, bats in the United States are the most commonly reported animal to have rabies and are the leading cause of human rabies deaths. Rabid bats are found in all U.S. states except for Hawaii. Raccoons are a rabies reserve in the eastern U.S., extending from Canada and Florida. Skunks are another common carrier of rabies in the U.S. Foxes are another common carrier of rabies in the U.S. Alright, so... And by the way, another thing... So one thing I will say about her video that is very damning is... With it being a minute, you don't get a lot of information from that. Besides, some of the statistics. But what she doesn't go over is prevention. She doesn't besides we need to call stray dogs. We need to, we would get the help if but we have, but it's like, oh my gosh. It's like we could be doing this a lot better, but because of dog worshippers, no, that's not the case. Prevention for rabies, or how to prevent rabies. Rabies is a fatal viral disease that can be prevented through effective vaccination and safety measures. Here are some key steps to prevent rabies. Vaccinations. Animal vaccination. Ensure that all pets, including dogs, cats, ferrets, receiving regular rabies vaccinations as recommended by a veterinarian. Human vaccination. Individuals at high risk of exposure to rabies, such as wildlife workers, laboratory professionals, and travelers to rabies endemic areas, should receive a pre-exposure rabies vaccination series. Avoidance of exposure. Stay away from wild animals. Avoid contact from wild animals, such as bats, raccoons, skunks, and foxes. Supervise pets. Keep pets on leashes and supervise them closely when outdoors. Report sick or dead animals if you encounter, if you encounter a sick or dead animal that may have rabies, do not touch it and report it to local authorities immediately. Post-exposure care. Seek medical attention promptly. If you are bitten or scratched by an animal that may have rabies, seek immediate medical attention. Follow treatment recommendations. Follow the recommended post-exposure rabies treatment regimen, which may include a series of rabies vaccines and rabies immunoglobulins. I know I keep screwing up the word. I apologize. Additional precaution: keep pets up to date on vaccinations. Ensure that pets receive their booster rabies vaccinations as scheduled. Report stray animals. Report any stray animal to local animal control authorities. Educate others. I think that's the big one. I'm going to highlight that. That's the big one. Because with somebody like Canine Aversion, she doesn't want to educate. She wants to make people scared. And what better way than, to show, a series of, videos of people basically being affected by such a tragic freaking virus. A very devastating virus. And display a bunch of statistics for, about a minute. And then try to claim that it's the dogs are the main issue. It's no, it's not. In areas in Africa and Asia, most likely, because again, in some of those countries, there is a lot of issues with, you know, trying to get vaccinated or the animals being vaccinated. And there are precautions in terms of dealing with rabies, which again, something that really this lady doesn't actually talk about. So, overall, I will say she got some things right. However, I will also say that with her video, as like a lot of her other videos, she just fear mongers and overall tries to make excuses as to why something is bad, when in reality there are ways, again, especially with rabies, ways to prevent it. Yes, in a lot of areas, rabies or dogs are the main cause of rabies. But that's in areas where their infrastructure, their healthcare, and the access to vaccinations is very, very, very limited. But in areas like Europe, US, and Canada, there is rarely, and as actually as I mentioned in one of the earlier statements, it's very uncommon in areas like the US, Europe, and Canada. So overall, as long as you're taking the necessary precautions, keeping an eye out for animals, overall, you have, I don't want to say you have nothing to worry about rabies, but at the very least you have a way to manage it, or to some extent a way to prevent it. So anyway, that's all I'm gonna do for this video. I just turned a 1-minute video into 30 minutes. I don't know how that happened, but anyway, that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Truly appreciate it. If you guys can, please like, comment, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. If you guys want to follow us on social media, it's all in the description down below. As well as check out our daily content and the weekly podcast. With that being said, this is Rob Novakast signing off. Have a good one. Take care. And I'll see you guys in the next video.